I worked at a factory. Went to factory in 1989. We made radial passenger tires for cars. I worked there with my dad, 8 of my uncles, and 12 of my cousins. I was a union steward there. That plant now sits in China because you can import small radial passenger tires pretty cheap because of our failed trade policy in this Democrat's opinion. Donald Trump will use that to say that we need to fight China. We need to bring those jobs back to America. Feel a little pain for a little bit, but I'm rejiggering this whole thing to make it work for you. That's what he's betting on against the pain of what people are really going to feel. And this is what will be determined in 18 months, to your point, Abby, is the American people will decide which one of these philosophies actually is true.
That's 100% true. I mean, we all agree.
We all agree.
Exactly right. Let's just hope that
the Mexican red.
Well, it is the Martha Zoller Show, and on that point, people are agreeing. Democrats and Republicans getting together and agreeing on something. And I love the way this guy puts this out there. I'm trying to get the guy's name here because I want to get it right, but it was his name is Chuck Rocha. Okay. And he is a Southern guy. You can tell by his voice. I want to play that one more time because I want people to hear this. This is a Democrat, a traditional Democrat, that probably doesn't have a place in the Democratic Party right now, but here's what he had to say.
I worked at a factory. Went to factory in 1989. We made radial passenger tires for cars. I worked there with my dad, 8 of my uncles, and 12 of my cousins. I was a union steward there. That plant now sits in China because you can import small radial passenger tires pretty cheap because of our failed trade policy in this Democrat's opinion. Donald Trump will use that to say that we need to fight China. We need to bring those jobs back to America. Feel a little pain for a little bit, but I'm rejiggering this whole thing to make it work for you. That's what he's betting on against the pain of what people are really going to feel. And this is what will be determined in 18 months, to your point, Abby, is the American people will decide which one of these philosophies actually is true.
That's 100% true. I mean, we all agree.
We all agree.
Exactly right. Let's just hope that
the Mexican redneck brought everybody together.
Oh, that's so funny. So I got a text message in that said, "Good morning, Martha. I agree with you, what you're saying. The 2 largest container ships in the world are owned by Walmart and haul containers from China to the United States and go back empty. The tariffs should change that." And do you know what? I know. Look, I love Walmart. There's a certain thing that I go to Walmart for. I mean, not one thing, but there's certain range of things I go to Walmart for. And while I do most of my shopping online, I'll admit that, and the boxes in my garage will support that. I like Walmart. It's a great American company. And over the years, more and more and more and more, they started getting things made in China. If anybody can force this from a retail standpoint, Walmart can. They can start demanding that they do business in the United States. So here's how it used to go. It used to go that you bought your first round of whatever it was from China or Taiwan or Japan or whatever because you could get it really cheap and bring it in. And then you'd see what sold because it takes a long time. You see what sold and you could get an American manufacturer to make your fill-ins. That's the way it used to go. So it was more of a partnership than what it is today. Now they just bring it in and they sell it out, and the stuff is what that you can't even give away when you're done with it. Is that really what we want? I think it's time to change the whole way we look at this. Susan from Gainesville said, making China pay for COVID by forgiving all debts to the countries might keep them from doing it again, because I believe they will do something like that again if there are zero consequences. We need to help all countries who owe China in that way because we can. That's right. We are in a powerful position. We are in a powerful position. And you know what? Even though I know Donald Trump is looking towards the midterms, okay, he's not focused on the midterms. And what I mean by that, he knows he's got 18 months total to get done what he needs to get done so that he has 6 months to sell it to the American people so that we win big in the midterms. And if we win big in the midterms, which I know I have good friends of mine that I debate with a lot who say there's no way we're going to pick up in the midterms. Okay, maybe there's not, but you don't give it up a year and a half ahead of time. You fight for it every day. Okay, so if we pick up in the midterms, then what we've got to make sure, more than anything else, if this strategy works, because Donald Trump is not going to be able to run for a third term. Okay, the only way he's going to be able to run for a third term is to repeal the 25th Amendment. And if we repeal the 25th Amendment, I think it's the 25th Amendment. It's whatever the ones that limited the terms of the president. But we can't. You've got to get 2/3 of the House and the Senate and 2/3 of the states to ratify a change like that. That takes too long. And it's intentional that it takes too long because you don't want to do something willy-nilly. And the idea, even though I've said there's nobody out there like Donald Trump other than Donald Trump, you could have somebody that's in the Donald Trump mold to be able to keep the America First policies. I don't know if it's J.D. Vance. Okay, it ought to be J.D. Vance because he's going to be at the right hand of all of the stuff that's done. But you know what? It could be somebody like Scott Bessent. I know he probably doesn't look in the mirror and see a president looking back at him. But it could be somebody like him that could manage the economic policies. You know, my dad used to always say that we ought to have like a president, and then we ought to have 2 vice presidents, the way a lot of companies do, where you've got a domestic vice president and you've got a foreign policy vice president. Because usually what you have with a president is somebody that's good at one but not the other, okay? So I think Donald Trump's good at both, okay? I think that he is good at both the foreign policy and how to mess with the heads of these people. And he's also good at the economic stuff, okay? Again, I think there are other people that could do what he's doing, but nobody did it. There are people that have talked about this for 40 years, but nobody did it. The person that came closest to it was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan changed the world order for 40 years' time in the bringing down of the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe and freeing Eastern Europe. And it was that coalition, really, of Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, and Pope John Paul II. I don't know who the partners are going to be in this, or if Donald Trump is just going to have to be that behemoth that does it by himself. But this is like Reagan, Thatcher, and John Paul II. The difference is, and you're going to laugh at this, and you're going to probably think I'm crazy, okay? The difference is social media, okay? And I'll tell you why. I'll explain it. Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, and John Paul II, you only saw the best of them. You only ever saw the best of them. They were flawed just like anybody else, but they were smooth, great communicators, all of them. And because of the way communication was, all you really ever saw of them is what they wanted you to see of them. Okay? So because of the way communication was, you got to remember, this was even at the infancy of cable news, 24-hour cable news. There was 24-hour cable news, but all there was CNN, and they weren't that big. Okay? So it was the infancy of cable news. There was no social media. There was no internet. So people had a lot more control over what you saw of them, and they all looked smooth, put together, great messaging, no problems, any of that. Who are the people now? You see every flaw they have. You see every pimple they have. You see every crack in their veneer. I don't know if that's good or bad yet, because I do think you need heroes in your life. And people are so a part of things that you don't have. You see everything that's wrong with them. You see the yes, but. You see the how we're going to do things. And I don't know who the partners are in the world that are going to help Donald Trump do this, or if he's going to be the behemoth that drags this economy into a fairer, more 21st century economy. Because let me tell you something, China's not living in the future. Even though they're doing AI and all that, they're living the past of their dynastic history.